Imagine having to wake up and go to a school every day where other students and sometimes even teachers treat you as though you're subhuman for things completely beyond your control. It's gotten so bad that you've developed depression and anxiety. You feel intense stomach aches most days knowing that you'll have to look certain people in the eyes. In summary, that's a description of my own high school experience. I've never been very good with intros. I hope that was good enough. Regardless, this video is something that I've wanted to do for a while now. It's basically going to be a long story time type thing where I'm getting out all the gossip from high school that's built up in me for so long. I'm not going to share anything super deep or traumatic, but there will be mentions of bigotry, like homophobia and transphobia, and a lot of mentions of that. With that out of the way, I'll be doing this in sections. Each section will be for stories surrounding specific people whose names I'm swapping with fake ones to protect their identities. And also because I admittedly do not remember all their names. And I also hope that you enjoy the art for all the title cards, because I am drawing them from memory. Before I get into any of the stories, I feel like an introduction to who I am might be helpful so that you have some context. Hi, my name is Eddie. I'm a trans man, I'm bisexual, and I've been diagnosed with autism and ADHD. I know, pick a struggle. These stories are all based on where I live, a small town in the South. Queer and neurodivergent in the South. That's all the context you really need, I think. Needless to say, no one really liked me. And I know everyone always says everybody hates me, but it's like an exaggeration. I'm not exaggerating. There was one point where I walked into my classroom and in unison, like 5 different students all looked at me and went, ugh, my bad. The majority of them didn't like me for the things about myself that I just mentioned. And even a lot of the other weird kids didn't like me because of this one post I made about a play that our school put on. It's a long story, but to sum it up, our school put on this play in which a particular slur was used, and I made a post on Instagram complaining about it. Being an annoying piece of shit teenager, it was badly worded. I made it sound like my frustration was towards the theater department instead of the reality, where it was more so towards whoever specifically approved of that play, I guess the principal, because I myself and a lot of other students had been complaining almost every day about the bigotry that we faced at the hands of these other students. So I found it kind of tone deaf for that decision to be made. Honestly, the only reason that I really added this part to the script is so that on the off chance that somebody who went to my school and was a theater kid during that year sees this, I can say, I'm sorry. It was a poorly worded post that unintentionally directed feelings of resentment towards the wrong people. One last thing before I start. If you're watching this and you do recognize me from school and you remember that particular rumor about me telling a substitute teacher that I would cancel my subscription to Life because she called out my dead name during roll call, no, for the record, that did not happen. That was not true. I don't know why or how that rumor got started. Alright, now on to the stories. Have you ever been in a situation where a teacher blatantly had a favorite student? Well, imagine if said teacher favored your bully and let them get away with bullying you. That's what class was like for me in my freshman year. I'll call this teacher Miss Eyebrows because she was really bad at shaping her eyebrows. And I'll call this student Chucklenut. Chucklenut was an awful student in this class. He'd sleep, he'd be on his phone, and he'd pick on me the whole time. Miss Eyebrows never did anything about it, even though I know she saw it. I say I know she saw it because she was on top of every other student in that class. You took out your phone during the last minute of class when the lesson was already over. She'd take it up and you had to get it back at the end of the day from the office. But her dear beloved Chucklenut calls me the British word for a cigarette and throws things at me from across the room the whole class period. Oh, well, all of a sudden she's conveniently completely oblivious. Miss Eyebrows later got fired for adding students on Snapchat and private messaging them. I'm pretty sure, to no one's surprise, that Chucklenut just so happened to be one of these students. That's not the only story I have about Chucklenut. There was one point where he sent an email to the one gay teacher that we had that entailed him calling her the previously mentioned British word for a cigarette and telling her that she should be euthanized. Don't quote me on this because I might be wrong, but I'm fairly certain that he got caught because he used his own student email. Hilariously stupid if that was true. You'd think he'd get suspended or maybe even expelled, right? Wrong. He got like a few days of in-school suspension. Just a recap, he sent a teacher an email so hateful and so bigoted that she quit. And his only punishment was a couple days of ISS and a little slap on the wrist. This was also before Miss Eyebrows got fired, and she actually commented on the situation saying that he shouldn't have gotten in that much trouble and that the email was kind of funny. Needless to say, she should not have even been working there in the first place. This next group of individuals were less cartoonishly evil, but equally as bigoted as the previous candidates. In my senior year, or rather my first senior year because I got held back, I had a lunch period class with a woman who I'll call Miss Martinez. The way this period worked was that for the first half of class, we'd be in class, and in the middle, we would go to lunch, and then we would come back for the last half of class. The main problem was that there were these girls who I will call Lane, Stormy, and Amy, who hated my guts. They did that bitchy mean girl thing where they'd talk about you as if you're not right there in front of them, but then when you say anything about it, they go, "Oh, we weren't talking to you." Don't talk about me then if you don't want me to respond. Or at least wait until I'm not in earshot. It did also get pretty bad. I have this one specific memory where either Lane or Amy were talking to Stormy about me, and they said something like, "But she wants to be a guy." And Stormy went, "Well, she's not." Stormy, why did you care so much about what was down my pants? I'm just saying, maybe that's why she acted so awful to me all the time. Maybe she was just trying to throw people off her trail because she was in love with me. The most frustrating memory from that class was the time that I did try to reach out for help. The bitchy comments from Lane, Stormy, and Amy were only one little chunk of what I dealt with in a day. And on one particular bad day for me, I was finally met with the straw that broke the camel's back. Admittedly, it wasn't that big of a deal, in hindsight, but again, it wasn't just about that particular comment, it was about everything leading up to it. Classroom was decorated that day in rainbow birthday paraphernalia for Miss Martinez's birthday, and due to it being rainbow, Lane said something like, "Did Eddie decorate this room?" Again, it's not that serious, but it was everything leading up to that as well. And I decided to just snitch. I knew Miss Martinez was probably just genuinely oblivious to the bullying. She was an older woman who didn't pay much attention to her students aside from teaching them the lessons and assigning them homework. So during the first half of class, I wrote her a letter. It was an explanation on the fact that I was being bullied, and I'd specifically said in the letter that I didn't want her to pull them out of the class altogether, because that would make it super obvious that I had told, and that I also didn't want her to specifically say that it was from me, because that would make it worse. As soon as lunch was over, and I got back, and I sat down in my desk, my heart dropped, because I heard her go, "Lane, Amy, Stormy, hallway, now." So much for being discreet about it. As soon as they walked back into the room, I could feel all of them staring at me. They were saying things to each other like, "We didn't even do anything." Girl, okay, fine, be mad at me for snitching, but don't deny the very reason that I snitched in the first place. That shit happened. On one particular occasion, during that same first senior year, I was on my way to my bus when I heard a squeaky little voice from behind me trying to get my attention. A younger student, who I will call Fisty McTickletaint, was looking at me with a shit-eating grin on his face. He said something along the lines of, "You identify as a man? I identify as a squirrel." Lame, unoriginal, boring, uncreative. Anyways, I responded by saying, "You should identify as a joke so you'll be funny." And then all of his friends laughed at him. I walked off calmly, but on the inside I was going, yes. Cause honestly, I think I peaked in that moment. That was the single funniest thing I've ever said, and I will never be that cool again. To leave a bully with their friends laughing at them, to turn them into the butt of the joke instead of it being yourself, that's a good feeling. Unfortunately, there are some occasions where you shouldn't clock someone, even if it would be really, really funny. There were these two brothers who I will call Hunter and Sprint, who are a great example of this. Especially Hunter. Have you ever seen a man so homophobic that it just makes him look really gay? Well, one time on my way to class, Hunter came up behind me screaming about me being a furry because I was wearing a choker necklace. Side note, did anyone else get bullied for wearing a choker? Because in my school, the other kids all unanimously agreed that a choker meant that you were trying to be a dog and they'd bark at you. Kids got bullied super bad in my school for this, and my negative IQ assistant principals decided to solve this problem by making chokers against the dress code instead of just punishing the actual bullies. Okay, back to the story. I'm not a furry, but I didn't really care about him calling me one because personally I think furries are cool. He seemed to get really annoyed that the furry comments weren't getting to me, so he decided to switch gears and just be homophobic. He was complaining about me being a lesbian. I already knew at this time that I was a dude, but I decided not to correct him because I, again, didn't care enough to. He said, "How are you gonna get on your knees and eat like that?" And in that moment, I thought of the single funniest comeback ever. The same way you get on your knees and eat, Hunter. But when you have an emotionally unstable, homophobic country boy staring you down, red-faced, tears welling up in his eyes, you keep your mouth shut. Not a single part of me doubts that he would have hauled off and hit me had I said that. But seriously though, his comment was so dumb. You're a straight man, I thought, Hunter. Why are you baffled and disgusted at the idea of me wanting to please a woman? Why is that such a foreign concept for you? Are you saying you wouldn't please a woman? Are you coming out to me right now? I mean, it is Pride Month at the time of me filming this. His brother Sprint wasn't any better. This one time when I was on a walk, they just so happened to be driving past me in their truck. They slowed down, rolled down their window, and threw an old cup of soda at me. I also got confirmation the next day that it was them because I heard them talking about it to someone else. Yeah, we threw some old soda at some the other day. Yeah? Did that make you feel so big and strong? Did that make you feel so powerful and important? Did that make you feel like you had such a big, huge dick? One of my most long-time bullies was somebody who I will call Cedric Duck. Cedric absolutely despised me, starting from the 3rd grade all the way until he graduated. I have a lot of stories about him, but I'll only share a couple, the less sad ones. We've already covered enough bigots in this video, and honestly it's getting a little sad, so I'm gonna stick to some of the other stories. In my sophomore year science class, we each had an assigned calculator for when we'd take tests that included math. When the teacher told us to grab our calculators, I grabbed mine, and Cedric followed me all the way to my desk trying to get my attention. I ignored him, partially because he was using my dead name and I don't respond to that, and partially because I don't fucking like him. Finally, he used the right name, so I listened to him. He asked if he could use my calculator. I said no, partially because I'd already sat down and I didn't feel like getting up to grab a different one, and partially because I don't fucking like him. He got so whiny and insistent about it that the teacher even made him go sit down. Well, when I got my test and I turned on the calculator, there was a bunch of previously done math on the calculator. I always clear my calculators before I use them. The best way I can describe it is that it feels cluttered if there's a bunch of old math problems already on it. So I cleared it before I used it, and as I always do, I also cleared it after every question that I put into it. After I turned in my test and put up the calculator, Cedric ran over and grabbed it. I heard him get all angry and talk to someone else about it. She cleared it. It wasn't until just then that it dawned on me. He was mad because someone in the period before ours saved the answers onto that specific calculator for him, and he didn't get to see them. He literally threatened to fight me over this, by the way, but I mean, he never did. But still, wow. Calm down. Not even the other bullies liked Cedric. Remember Lane and Amy and Stormy? One time I heard them talking about Cedric. One of them had hired him to fix their fence and he didn't know what he was doing at all. He was trying to hammer in the screws. I know nothing about carpentry, and even I know that that's not how you do that. It made sense though. He's stupid. That's why he needed to cheat on the test, and that's why he's a bigot. There ain't no such thing as a smart bigot. To end this video off, I wanted to share at least one positive story. There was one student who I'll call Jaden, who actually was not an asshole to me. It really surprised me because he was friends with a lot of people who were assholes, but Jaden was different. I learned that one day on my way to the bus because he walked up to me and he pointed to my choker necklace. Instantly I got that feeling of, oh shit, here we go. But then he just said something along the lines of, I think those necklaces are cool, I don't get why people are rude about them. Thank you. On another occasion, he was walking down the hall screaming, "It's Friday!" and high-fiving everyone. He high-fives hard, by the way. After he high-fived me, I definitely did like a... But I didn't even care. His happiness was so contagious. After he graduated, I actually ran into him at Walmart, and he recognized me, and he greeted me, and he asked how I'd been doing, and that just meant a lot to me in the moment. I know those moments might not seem super significant, but they were to me. Seriously, high school was awful for me. There were so many points where I really did consider checking out early, like, from life. And if it weren't for people like Jaden giving me a little kindness here and there, I probably would have actually done it, and I wouldn't be here today making this video. I guess if there's any takeaway from this video, it's that you should be nice to people. You never know what other people are going through, and you never know what might end up being the straw that breaks the camel's back for that person. And you also never know how badly someone might need that little bit of kindness. Alright, I guess that's all for now. Thank you to anyone who actually made it this far. I would say you should subscribe to my channel, but I'm not gonna post consistently. Especially not organized, edited, thought out videos like this, where I have a script that I'm reading from or anything. So, yeah, be nice to people. That's it. She's hiding in my room because she doesn't like the thunder. What? What? Oh, you're so cute. Oh, big yawn.